So let's talk about Nineveh for a little bit. Nineveh is a city that is in the Assyrian Empire. And the Assyrians were known as being just amazing, is that the right word? A huge, like, warlords, that everyone feared them and worried about when they would come and overtake them. I mean, their battle tactics are still studied to this day about what they did and how they conquered people. They invented the siege tower, where they would bring up a tower up next to a wall so they could scale over the walls. They are a completely brutal group. There was an archaeological dig in Mosul, Iraq, a while back, and they uncovered like the king's palace. And in the king's palace, there was like reliefs, drawing type of things on the walls all around there. And they depicted scenes of how they would conquer other people. And these reliefs now are on display inside of London. And one of the reliefs shows them using the siege tower. Like there's a big sled going up against a wall so they could go inside of there. And then the next one is, you could see they're taking people away to be slaves. You can see some of this brutality in our Bible. In 2 Kings chapter 18, they tell stories about being conquered and the brutality of the Assyrians. But this last one is the most disturbing. Like when you look at this last one, can you tell what they're doing? They're actually skinning people alive. Can you imagine the brutality of that? Of these people that are just known for being nasty. I mean, can you imagine how worried you would be if you were told to go there, or if they were coming to conquer you? Like, it's awful. I mean, and somebody, especially God perhaps, needs to bring these people to justice. And when we start talking about Nineveh, it can bring up other images in our mind. What's interesting is, like, in Mosul right now, there used to be the tomb of Jonah and a bunch of other things that we don't have anymore because ISIS came and blew it all up, right? And we look at Nineveh, and I think we can have like a pretty good analog for these groups that are just completely hateful. Stuff like Al-Qaeda and ISIS, and like the modern ones around here, like the KKK, and all these different things that incite fear inside of people. So Jonah actually obeys God and goes to Nineveh for once. I imagine that he's probably like a small child or something like that who doesn't want to go on a walk or something, and he's probably just like shuffling his feet the whole time. So he makes it to Nineveh, and how they describe Nineveh in the book is extremely interesting. Like, again, remember, Jonah is like, it's satire or it's a comic book, it's something, because everything is just huge and foreboding. It says that Nineveh takes 3 whole days to walk through the middle of it. It's like, whoa, man, that's huge. Like I looked up in Google how far away like 24 hours were. I was thinking that'd be like 2 days. That's Boca Raton from Port St. Lucie. That's really far down there. We found it and did an archaeological dig on it. It's about 7 miles circumference. Circumference. That's not straight through, that's just circumference. It doesn't take 3 days to walk through that, right? It doesn't take that. That's how big Central Park is. Right? That's about 7 miles around in circumference. It's not that big, but yet it's interesting the words that are used to describe how big it is. What else is described in 3 days? Something Jonah goes through is actually 3 days. Like, remember, he's in the belly of the beast, the belly of the fish, the pit of Sheol for 3 days. And Nineveh here's 3 days to walk through. Remember, Jesus was in the tomb for 3 days. Maybe it has something to do with death and renewal and redemption. I don't know. But it says that it's completely big. It's just interesting, right? But so we have this reluctant prophet who's gone into this huge city that just happens to take the same amount of time to walk through as it takes to be in a fish, right? And not die. And he preaches this sermon. I'm going to read it to you real quick. So just sit back. It may take a while as I read his sermon. He says, "Yet 40 days and Nineveh shall be overthrown." Yeah, that's it. That's all of the sermon. It's like, you look at it and we'll count the words. There's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 words. That's it. In Hebrew, it's even less. It's like 4 words. It's incredible, right? And some of you are like, oh, this guy gets it. This is the best sermon. Every sermon should be less than 10 words. That's what we need. He barely gives a message, right? He barely tells them. He doesn't give them any details about what's going on. Why are they being judged? Who is judging them? Nothing is there. And anyone would listen to this and go like, what's going on? I don't get it. What is happening to us? So it's the worst sermon ever. The sermon, it's almost like Jonah is just ticking off a box saying, God, I did it. I finally did it. I did what you wanted me to do. Like that's it, right? Like it's just the bare minimum. We see something amazing. Even off of that substandard sermon, we see almost like a grassroots movement where the people in Nineveh begin to repent, put on sackcloth. Jonah didn't even repent. It took him going into the pit of Sheol in the belly of the beast to repent. And yet, with the small words, they see the error of their ways and they begin to change, repent in sackcloth and ashes. And yet we see how God uses a reluctant prophet, barely giving a decent message, to bring about confession and renewal to an entire group of people. And I hope that you can be used in that same way. We'll see you next time.